Hi everyone, Claudette here with my awesome, amazing co-host Sharona with another great episode of Conversations That Matter Most. Hi Sharona.
Hi, Claudette. Hi, everybody. And I'm just going to put it out there. We're both dealing with whatever we're dealing with. I'm sleep deprived. And Claudette?
I have a nasty cold. So I have my Kleenex here and my water and my little coffee things.
Oh, my gosh. So we're human. Here we go.
This show must go on.
Must go on.
All right. So thank you for being here, and I'm glad that you and I, Sharona, made it, even with our wacky doodle things that are going on for us. And I love that our topic today, which is going to be the art of negotiation, because I think as women have a hard time negotiating. I don't know if you've seen this when you're working with midlife women, but I know when I'm talking with stepmoms and moms, negotiation isn't part of their vocabulary. And I think it's an important aspect for our lives to understand negotiation. And so just a little preview or side backstory on who we are, in case this is the first time you've heard from us. Sharona and I started Conversations That Matter Most because we were sitting together one day and talking about all kinds of stuff, and we decided, you know what, it would be nice if we could share these conversations we're having with other people. Mm-hmm. And so I'll let you talk a little bit more while I'm blowing my nose here.
So we've been doing this over a year now, and we've been talking about all kinds of topics of conversations that matter most. And as we put these out there, I like to remind all our viewers that this is not about we're trying to persuade you, or this is not about if you like us or not. This is about if just to give you a stepping or a launching pad to have conversations that are deeper than just on the surface. So that's what these are about. And it's amazing because a lot of times we find when Claudette and I have our little talks on Monday, things will pop up, and we'll say, and this week for some reason negotiation came up. And just also to remind our viewers, we don't script this. This is live. We're just having a conversation.
Yeah, definitely. And and we're using some of our personal experience and knowledge from all our years of working with our clients in our personal life. And so it comes from past experience. So it's not just something we're iterating. Mind you, there are sometimes, just in case we want to have a deeper understanding of a topic, we will do some research. And so it was interesting because I wanted to know more about the art of negotiation, what was out there on the internet. And when you look at the art of negotiation, one of the things that is the first thing you see is about business.
Yes.
Right? The number one topic when it comes to negotiation is around business. The reality is that we should know the art of negotiation with everything in our life, whether you're a little kid, right, playing in a playground and negotiating toys, sharing toys. If you're a teenager, negotiating about where we should go on a date, or doing teen activities, or as a parent or as a woman, negotiating about what it is we want. And so the concept of negotiation just being geared towards business, I think it's like they're missing a huge area, right?
Right. And I think one of the things too is, a lot of times when people, I think again, as women, be it a midlife woman or women in general or a stepmom, we are not actually taught the skills of how to negotiate.
Mm.
And so for a lot of us, we go to our default where we let the other person decide. Or we want to, again, it comes into this thing about because how we've been conditioned and how culture has done things, educated us, we have a tendency of putting other people's needs first.
Mm-hmm.
And so what happens is, I think negotiation has gotten this negative thing about it's about a confrontation, and it really isn't. It's about listening. It's about listening to what another person needs and then listening to what I need and then having it's actually a conversation about finding how to make it work for all parties concerned.
Yeah, I agree with what you said about it's the art of listening. So negotiation should have like a an underline and then equal listening, right? And asking for what you want. And just to go back to a little bit what you said prior is a lot of times I know for myself, people would say, "Don't rock the boat." Like, don't make waves. Don't rock the boat. Keep it down. Don't make waves. It's like, but when you're not negotiating and when you're giving or trying to make other people happy, in essence, is what you're saying is that, well, I'm not important enough to be considered what is important to me or to be heard what's important to me. I find that it's interesting that as soon as women voice what they want, they're either nagging or they're complaining, but it's never heard or seen as let's negotiate what we want. And we need to change the perspective.
Yes, because we again, I think a lot of that comes from the fact that we don't know the techniques or the tools of how to negotiate. And one of the things is, as you were talking, asking for what I need or stating what I need. A lot of times we forget that we get to ask for that. This is what I need at this moment. And again, because of our culture that discriminates against women, I can't, we do. Everything that we do is seen as less than. So, like for instance, one of the things is like when men talk about women or people talk about women, they like to address us as girls. Like girl, but like if you were if two guys were if you were in a bar with your friends and you were looking at a nice gentleman over you wouldn't say, "Oh, look at that boy over there," because right away we would think of a little boy. But yet what they say is, "Oh, look at that girl, isn't she?" So we as women need to stop calling each other girls.
Yeah.
And we need to negotiate that, because we got to go into negotiating how do we approach a negotiation in a sense of confidence and power of being woman.
Yep.
And we have the right to ask for what we need. Now, is it going to be easy? No, because we're going to be scared. The little butterflies in the belly, the little terror in the head is going to happen. So it's going to take practice. And I think one of the things is start practicing on really easy things.
Yeah. Yeah, like negotiating a meal. I'm thinking like negotiating a meal, right? And sometimes, I would see like for our kids, it's like you give options. These are the options, and what are some of the options that we have? And I think it makes it easier to negotiate when you have a certain amount of options, as opposed to a free-for-all. When there's too many decisions to be made, it's really hard to negotiate, because then you have no idea of, you're going too far. So if you keep your negotiations around keep the perimeters tight, let's say for a meal, and I'm giving this as an example, because as many stepmoms know, meals or dinner time and meal can be frustrating, because, oh, I don't like to eat these peas, or I don't eat carrots, but at my mom's house, this is how we eat dinner. So so how do you negotiate around dinner time or meals? So to make it easy to negotiate, have few options, and then listen to what everybody has to say, and give the opportunity to everybody to voice what they think. And this is where listening, what you said earlier, Sharona, this is where listening is important, because when we feel heard, we are more apt to be open to negotiations.
Yes. And yeah, I agree.
But if we don't feel heard, if we feel we must defend ourselves, we close ourselves down, and then we don't listen or hear anything else that's going on.
And I think that that thing about defense is we get, because there's this part of us that and then I'm going to skip around because my brain just did that. Back to the meal, and I like that idea about options. But one of the things that I want to touch back on again is, I think a good idea is have only a few options, right? Because I think what happens again is we try to please everybody, and they go, it's either going to be this, this, or this. Yeah. I'm not going to spend an hour trying to plan a meal and then make the meal, and then so this is what we have.
Yeah.
And I'm not making everything on that menu either.
No, and that's a good point, right? Everything is based on priority. Do you want to actually spend an hour negotiating on the meal, where you could spend like maybe 15 minutes, where there are other things like negotiating going on vacation, negotiating where you're going to live? These are long-term negotiations. So it's a question of priority, right? Like when my husband and I decided to move from Canada to Virginia, there was a lot of negotiation that needed to be done there. And not only for ourselves, we needed to negotiate with the other parent, asking them if they would allow us to bring the kids. So that negotiation was a lot more longer and intense. Mind you, it went really well, because again, it was, we're either going or we're not, right? There were two options. It's a yes or a no. And so if it's a yes, then we negotiate more. If it's a no, there's no negotiation to be had, because there's nothing left to say.
Right. It was interesting. I was working with this midlife woman who was going back, decided she needed to go back to school. And she still had some, young, not young, but, teens in the house. And, they were, and she was still doing the cooking the meals and all, taking care of the house while trying to work and all that. And one of the things that was really interesting is she was getting exhausted. She was trying to do too much. So we worked a little bit through with a plan. And the plan was she needed to have other people in the house, her spousal person and the teens in the house to actually sit down, have a meeting. And so she actually started negotiating about what is going to be done in the household, so that she is not the primary person. And it was really interesting because it took, now here's the thing, it wasn't done in, like you were saying, high priorities. It wasn't done in 15 minutes. It wasn't done in one sitting either. They had to go through this it was a process. And one of the things that she did again was listen to what they needed. They listened to what she needed, and then she did something, and which I thought, which I do too, is listen for what they're really good at, what they're willing to do. So it turned out her daughter liked to actually cook, and she wanted to do more of the cooking. So that's what she did. One of her sons decided what he could do was the laundry. He decided that he really liked clean clothes. So it was very interesting to see how, and then the spousal partner decided to, do what they needed to do, and it helped. But again, it's something about listening, setting boundaries, and asking for what is needed. Because and also, I think the other thing is letting go of the need to be right or to win.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. I agree. It's not easy to look for win-win situations, right? It's more complicated because you have to look for what is common for both of you, for the both party negotiating, in what can you both agree on that will make it better. So if I take back my example of when we were moving in Virginia, what was win-win for everybody was that the kids would have an opportunity to live in another country. They'd be able, they were going to be able to come back and visit their other parent often. And so it wasn't going to change our routine that much, except that they would have another experience. And again, that's a lot of negotiating on the win-win. And I love what your friend did or your client did around chores, because that is one of the biggest issues, especially for step families, and any family really, is chores. Like, when should my kids start doing chores? Should they be doing chores when they live at home only on the weekends or every other week? What chores should they be doing? And so those are all negotiable things. The other thing I want to mention is that when you're negotiating, when you're looking to get to people on board with maybe your idea, use we statements as opposed to I statements. When you use a we statement, you become more inclusive rather than I. I statements are good when you're talking about your emotions, your feelings. But when you're looking to have people come on board with something you want to have done, with a project or an idea, this is when we use we statements, so that the other person can see themselves being a part of the decision-making process.
Mm-hmm. And I want to touch on that, is because I statements, about what I'm needing. The thing which touched on, I like to say, stay on your side of the net. So the other thing is, when you're in a negotiation, you're going to feel your emotions, especially when things doesn't seem to be going your way again. So breathe into that. But you can't blame the other person. You can't make it all on them. So it's about staying on my side of the net. And then, saying this is this is the issue. So it's not looking at the personality, it's looking at the issue. What is the issue? The issue is, we're going to be moving to another country, or I'm going back to school and I need help. What can we do? How can we decide on what's going to be good for everybody? What's going to work for everybody? All the stakeholders, as they would say in business, involved. And I think that's a great idea. So it's we statement, staying on side of my net, not blaming everybody else, not making it, I did everything for you all these years. Now it's like, no. We don't want to be doing that. So those are things that we can, look at as we go into negotiation. And I think the other thing I want to touch on is this is also, negotiating boundaries is a great one to start working on, because it's about listening, but it's also about setting boundaries that it's going to work for everybody. What is my boundary? What is your boundaries are very different.
Very sure.
Right. So it's about learning how to set healthy boundaries.
Yeah, definitely. And so by understanding, first, to set healthy boundaries, you have to become aware of what your boundaries are. And
Right.
so that means you have to take the time to sit down and ask yourself, what are you okay with and not? Right? What are some of the things that are unequivocally, no way, I can't do this. I don't matter how much we negotiate, I will not accept this. And you need to understand that and ask and tell yourself, or understand the why. So that when someone asks you, why won't you accept, like example that I have is like negotiating having the mom, and I'm talking about the stepmom, negotiating with the stepmom, having the mom come over for a child's birthday party in our house, right? Now that's a negotiable thing. Now for some people, that's like, hell no. There's no way I'm having that woman in my house. And for other women or for other people, let's talk about it. If we go to a restaurant outside of our home, maybe I can accept that she comes to the party. Or, if we can have a respectful conversation, then maybe we can do that. So everything is negotiable, but there are things that you may not accept, but you have to understand what is it that makes it for you non-acceptable, so that another person can support you and understand you and be on the same page with you.
Yeah, and I think is that a lot of times that we know a boundary of ours gets crossed, is when we start feeling resentment and we start feeling icky and angry and annoyed, and we're going, so that's where you can have, ask yourself what is that boundary. And you might not have the words, but it's like this, wait, no.
Yep.
So those are things you can look at and ask yourself again, what's the reason behind it? Yeah. And here's the thing. Not everybody's going to like us, and we're not going to like everybody. And sometimes we cannot get along with other people in our family unit, so we need to learn how to negotiate being in the same room with people.
Yep.
And anyway, I just realized that it's just something that, again, it is a negotiation. And I think a lot of times we try to negotiate when it's not the right timing. It's like we might be in an emotional overwrought, or we might be angry, or you cannot negotiate in the middle of an anger storm or a resentful storm. You have to do it in a way where you honor your emotions, but you're not letting the emotions drive it.
Yeah. So for example, if you're angry and resentful and you're deciding, well, I'm going to teach this person a lesson, so I'm not going to get them to do anything. So that's not a win-win for anybody. That's just tit for tat, like, I'm going to teach you a lesson, and I'm going to say no matter what. That's not helpful for anybody.
No.
And now, if you feel like your life is in jeopardy and stuff like this, that's a totally different scenario. One thing I do want to mention is that before you start a negotiation, approach it from the from the feeling of respect, right? Even if you may not like another person, but respect them as a human being. And what's interesting is that sometimes we could be surprised what we can learn when you decide to let's just listen to what's going on. I remember one of my conflict resolution class and mediation class, which is part of negotiating. One of the persons that we were doing a project with, he decided not to participate. And I was really getting angry. And I'm thinking, I'm going through my head, okay, I'm sure he has issues, and I can understand. But the more I was trying to communicate with him, the more he was avoiding me. And so the more he was avoiding me, the more angry I got at him. So when it was time to do our project together, I said to the teacher, I want him to have 0. I don't want him to have any grade whatsoever. I want him to flunk. He didn't participate. Like, I went ballistic because I was so angry because we all did the work. He didn't. He was going to have the grade. So, of course, being in the conflict resolution class, we're negotiating and resolving. And so what was interesting is that he was having issues at home, but felt that we wouldn't be able to listen to him. And so we negotiated what grade he should have. And then we said, listen, if you give like part of what some of the work you did and give it to us, then we'll have you be a part of this. So we negotiated. He wasn't going to have this A like we had, but we were okay with giving him like a C or a B plus or a B, whatever. But again, that was a negotiation. Even though we were angry at him, and there was, I didn't want to have anything to do with him because I was so upset. So what we did is, and that was nice to have a third person there to say, okay, listen, we need to respect each other. We all have issues in our lives, so just take the time to listen and let's see how we can work this out. And that was a very important lesson for me. And stop jumping to conclusion and judging people before we get to hear them.
Yeah, and I think one of the things as we're going to wrap up here is, I think that it's a good example of honoring that everybody has something, and they might not. And there's this thing about, and it touched on something about trust, because he didn't trust that you were going to listen. You were not trusting him because he wasn't doing whatever, and so trust wasn't there. And also there's underneath with that also was that sense of vulnerability. He would have felt probably vulnerable about sharing what was going on in his, and then the anger was touching on your vulnerability of, you wanted to do the work and get recognition for the work you've done. And so it's interesting, all those things, again, trust, vulnerability, courage to speak, listen, setting boundaries, all that is part of negotiation. And if you really think about it, it's part of life. Yeah. Life is a negotiation. We're constantly negotiating how we're going to maneuver and navigate through the day. And so, so if you're, so if there's a stepmom out there who just feels that she needs some pointers or tips or suggestions, or maybe go a little deeper about negotiation, how could they get a hold of you, Claudette?
Thanks, Sharona. So, of course, yes. So, if you're a stepmom and you feel like everybody's like stepping over you, you feel like a doormat, and you feel like you're being undervalued, underappreciated, because that happens. And I would suggest that you learn the art of negotiation, and I would love to help you with this. It's an important tool, not just as a stepmom, but as an individual, as a woman, in your home and life. And so I'd love to speak with you. And you can reach me at Claudette at stepmomcoach.com. And my website is stepmomcoach.com. And on social media, so if you go and use hashtag stepmomcoach or stepmom wisdom, you'll find me on plenty of social media. You can also use hashtag Claudette Chenevier, but Chenevier is a harder name to use. I also have 6 e-courses that you can look through. Again, go to my website, about different areas like confidence, empowered step parenting, dealing with stress, and so there's plenty of e-courses there for you to look at, and start the process of negotiating and having a more fulfilled and healthier relationship in your step family. Now, Sharona, if there's a midlife woman out there who feels like she's getting the short end of the stick all the time, that she can't get ahead, or she's stuck where she is and has a hard time moving forward, how can they reach you?
Thanks, Claudette. So you can reach me at Sharona at midlifewomendancingwithchange.com. My website is www.midlifewomendancingwithchange.com. You can also reach me with hashtag Midlife Women Dancing with Change, hashtag Emotional Wisdom, and hashtag Thriving in the Midst of Midlife Change. On my website, there's a free mini e-seminar called Thriving in the Midst of Change, Midlife Change. Working on getting my Courageous Midlife Women Taking Risks, Reaping Rewards playbook. We'll be up there soon, and then working on some other mini e-seminars. So again, if you're feeling like you're stuck, or that you're not being seen, heard, appreciated, taken seriously, you can give me a call. I would love to talk with you. And so that way that you're building for the next part of your life more of a, instead of living in survival mode, that you're in thrival mode, and you're thriving wholeheartedly in body, mind, and spirit. So thank you, Claudette, for another wonderful episode of Conversations That Matter Most.
Thank you, Sharona, and thank you, everyone, for being here. And again, if you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe to our channel, and we'd love to hear your comments. So please put your little comments below, right underneath. Subscribe. And please share the love. Like, if you enjoyed this episode, share it with your colleagues, your friends, maybe even your frenemies. Who knows? They may say, hey, you know what? Thank you for sharing this. I really need it. Thank you. Anything else, Sharona, we need?
No, I think yeah. I think we covered it today, and I think it's time to say au revoir.
Au revoir. See you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.